Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
A susceptibility to gain weight may be written into molecular processes of human cells, a new study indicates. The proof of concept study with a set of 22 twins found an epigenetic signature in buccal or cheek cells appearing only for the twins who were obese compared to their thinner siblings.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
Many mental health problems emerge during adolescence. Among these are disorders such as depression and anxiety, which manifest as internalizing symptoms, including low mood and worrying. Other conditions such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, manifest as externalizing symptoms, such as impulsive behavior.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
The researchers concluded that millions of people around the world may have inhabited a gray zone between living and dying, in which they have had an out-of-body experience. People often wake up profoundly changed, no longer fearing death and resolved to live a better life.
You can obtain the application form from the administrative office.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
You can obtain the application form from the administrative office. You are not sure that you can skip the sessions for Wednesday.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
You are not sure that you can skip the sessions for Wednesday. If your student number is forgotten, reach out to Jenny Bryce for assistance.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
If your student number is forgotten, reach out to Jenny Bryce for assistance.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
This line chart gives information about educational resource distribution. From the picture we can see the value in teaching quality is 30%. In library resources the percentage is higher, which is 60%. The highest proportion is in arts investment, around 100%. And the lowest one is in technology equipment, just 38%. To sum up, the graph tells about educational resource.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
The following line chart gives information about ownerships of cell phone and smartphone in the US. From the line chart we can see in 2005, about 62% of adults owned a cell phone. In 2010, about 35% of adults owned a smartphone, and 80% owned a cell phone. In 2020, about 80% owned a smartphone and 96% owned a cell phone. In conclusion, the gap between the ownerships of smartphone and cell phone is decreasing.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
This bar chart gives information about green coverage rate. From the picture we can see in Mexico City the value is 33. In London the value is higher, which is 35. The highest value is in Sydney, which is 43. And the lowest value is in Tokyo, which is 19. In conclusion, this bar chart is very informative.
In our collective academic voyage, creativity stands as a lighthouse, guiding us through the sea of challenges. It's not merely an artist's tool but a universal skill that enhances our problem-solving abilities. Creativity is often the birthplace of innovation. When faced with a complex problem, a creative approach can illuminate unorthodox solutions, breaking away from the traditional one right answer paradigm. For instance, interdisciplinary studies show that creative thinkers are better at developing solutions that transcend conventional boundaries, fostering advancements in science, business, and the arts. Moreover, creativity in problem-solving encourages risk-taking and resilience. It allows us to view setbacks not as failures but as part of the creative process. This mindset is essential in our fast-paced world, where adaptability and flexibility are key to overcoming personal and professional hurdles.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
In this lecture, the speaker provided information about creativity. Firstly, the speaker talked about the academic journey, challenges, universal skills, the birthplace of innovation, problem solving, creativity, and fostering creativity in business. Furthermore, the speaker discussed creative thinkers, transboundary creativity, orthodox solutions, and the role of science. In addition, the speaker mentioned creative places, personal hurdles, professional challenges, lighthouses for better solutions, and the essential role of creativity in progress. Overall, it was quite an informative lecture that provided valuable information about creativity.
Right now, I would like to talk about the global market, a dance floor where nations, large and small, move to the rhythm of supply and demand. In this dance, the markets are not just a place of transaction but a stage where the economic health of a country is displayed. Healthy markets signify a thriving economy, where goods, services, and currencies flow seamlessly across borders. Moreover, the concept of market equilibrium is key. It's the sweet spot where the quantity of goods supplied meets the quantity demanded, leading to stable prices and satisfied consumers and producers. As we delve into the complex world of economics, let's remember that it's not just about numbers and charts. It's about the human stories behind them, the jobs created, the families supported, and the communities built. Understanding the markets equips us with the tools to contribute to an economy that serves everyone.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
The lecture discussed the global market. The most significant detail is supply and demand, which indicates transactions. Another important detail is a healthy market, which highlights the concept of markets. Moreover, it mentioned prices and consumers, which represent human stories and family support. To sum up, this lecture provides clear information about economic contributions.
From reading philosophy, I came up with 3 principles as the guiding principles for a just city. The principles of equity, democracy, and diversity. These were derived from the works of a number of philosophers, most preeminently, I suppose, John Rawls. My choice of the word equity rather than equality is in fact based on Rawls's argument that a policy ought to distribute benefits to people where the worst off become better off. So the worst off don't have to become equal to everybody else, but no policy should in fact make those who are most disadvantaged more disadvantaged. And it means that we have to talk about the policy at the time it's being enacted. To say, well, we have to make our city more competitive because sometime in the by and by, the benefits will trickle down to those people who are worst off, doesn't justify making them worst off at the time. We have a lot of examples in the world of people whose homes were destroyed in the name of the greater good and said, well, eventually they will benefit. But equity means that you do not, in fact, take advantage of those people who are weakest.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
There are main three guiding principles such as equity, democracy, and diversity. The speaker's main choice of the word equity rather than equality because this policy ought to distribute the benefits to people who are the worst off and do not have to become equal to everybody, but there is no other policy that has more disadvantages. The benefits will trickle down to those people who are worst off and does not justify making them worst off. But equity means that do not take any advantage of those people who are weakest.
Three students are discussing struggling with academic writing at university.
I'm finding academic writing so tough this semester. I just can't seem to get my ideas across clearly on paper, and my grades are suffering. I think it's the structure that gets me the most. I end up rambling and never really making a solid point. It's frustrating because I understand the material, I just can't articulate it well.
I totally get that. For me, it's the research. Finding credible sources and then putting them into my writing without plagiarizing is a nightmare. I spend more time worrying about citations than actually writing the paper. And honestly, just understanding what counts as good research is half the battle, you know?
You both hit on my biggest struggles, but I also think about how much there is to do. It feels like every class needs a massive research paper. Trying to balance that with everything else, like exams and stuff, is impossible. I start procrastinating because it feels so overwhelming, and then I end up rushing and doing a bad job.
Maybe we should look into the Writing Center. I've heard mixed reviews, but it could be worth a shot. They offer workshops on things like structuring essays and, proper citation, which might help us both, Chris. Or we could form a study group and read each other's papers before we hand them in. Fresh eyes can often catch things we miss ourselves.
I'm down for a study group. I've been meaning to try that. The Writing Center sounds good too, although I worry it'll be super busy so close to the deadline. I did hear from a friend that the library has research skills workshops. Maybe focusing on finding better sources could take some of the pressure off.
I'm in on both. A study group would definitely help with feeling so overwhelmed. Just having someone to bounce ideas off of could make a huge difference. And anything that makes my research better is a win. I'll check out the library workshops. And Sarah, maybe you can check out the Writing Center.
Deal! I'll look into the Writing Center and tell you what I find out. We could even set specific goals for our study group sessions, like outlining an essay or proofreading, like a certain number of pages. Having a structured approach might make it less scary.
That sounds like a solid plan. I think breaking down the writing process into smaller steps will make a huge difference. I'm actually feeling more optimistic already. Plus, misery loves company, right? It's good to know we're all in the same boat.
Absolutely. And knowing we're actually working on getting better is a huge confidence booster. I'm actually excited to start the next paper now. Let's figure out our schedules and get this study group going.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
The discussion focused on students' difficulties with academic writing at university. One participant highlighted struggles with structuring ideas clearly, while another emphasized challenges in finding credible sources and managing proper citations. A third student noted the overwhelming workload, which often leads to procrastination and rushed assignments. The group explored potential solutions, including utilizing the University Writing Center for workshops on essay structure and citations, attending library research skills sessions, and forming a study group to review each other's work. They suggested setting specific goals for group sessions, such as outlining essays or proofreading particular sections, to make the process more manageable. In conclusion, the conversation emphasized breaking down academic writing into structured steps, collaborating with peers, and using available institutional resources to improve writing skills, reduce stress, and build confidence in completing assignments.
3 students are discussing revising for midterm exams at university.
Okay, so midterms are coming up. How's everyone planning to, deal with all this stuff we have to learn? I'm honestly feeling a bit overwhelmed, you know? I've tried making a study schedule, but it already fell apart. Does anyone have, a secret weapon or a study trick they want to share?
I'm a big fan of the Pomodoro technique. Like 25 minutes of studying, then a 5-minute break. It helps me not get totally burnt out and keeps me focused. Plus, I actually get up and leave my desk during breaks. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. I also like using flashcards, especially for subjects with tons of definitions and stuff.
Flashcards are great for memorizing things, for sure. I prefer concept mapping. It helps me see the big picture and how everything's connected. I don't think just rereading notes is enough. I need to, really get into the material. Have you guys tried that before? Sometimes I feel like I'm just staring at the page, hoping the information will magically jump into my head.
Concept mapping sounds interesting. I might try that. But I think my main problem is staying focused, you know? I always get distracted by my phone or social media. It's like my brain's trying to ruin my study time. Do you guys have any tips for, avoiding distractions? I've even tried turning off my phone, but I still grab it without even thinking.
There are apps that can block websites and apps that distract you for a certain amount of time. That might help with the phone thing. Also, try finding a place to study where there aren't a lot of distractions like the library or a quiet spot in the student union. And make sure you're sleeping enough and eating well. It's easy to forget about taking care of yourself when you're stressed, but it really makes a difference.
I totally agree with Liam about taking care of yourself. And I think studying with a friend or in a small group can help you stay motivated and, keep each other on track. We can quiz each other and explain stuff, which really helps you understand it better. Plus, it's just less boring than studying by yourself. Maybe we could even do that sometime this week.
That's a great idea, Arya. I'm in. I could really use a study buddy to keep me focused. Plus, explaining things to someone else is a good way to see if I really get it. I'm free most evenings after class. What about you, Sarah? Want to do a group study session?
Yeah, I'm definitely in. Studying with you two would be awesome. Maybe we can meet in the library on Wednesday evening? Oh, and I found some old practice midterms online. We could use those too. Just having you guys to, talk things through with would be super helpful.
Perfect. Wednesday evening sounds good. Practice midterms are a great idea, too. Let's meet around 6 p.m., grab some coffee, and then get to work. This might actually be a good midterm season after all. Thanks for the study tips and getting me motivated, guys. I'm feeling a lot better about this now.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
The discussion focused on students' approaches to preparing for midterm exams. One participant expressed feeling overwhelmed and struggling to maintain a study schedule. Another recommended the Pomodoro technique, combining focused study intervals with short breaks, and using flashcards to memorize definitions. A third student preferred concept mapping to visualize connections between topics and understand the broader context. The group also highlighted strategies for minimizing distractions, such as using apps to block social media, choosing quiet study environments, and maintaining proper sleep and nutrition. Additionally, they emphasized the benefits of collaborative studying, including quizzing each other, explaining concepts, and practicing with past midterms to reinforce understanding. In conclusion, the conversation underscored the value of structured study techniques, self-care, and group study sessions to enhance focus, comprehension, and confidence during midterm preparation.
3 students are discussing study strategies and habits at university.
I've been trying out different ways to study, and I'm still figuring out what works best for me. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going around in circles. I started the Pomodoro thing, but I get distracted during the breaks. Anyone got tips on how to stay focused when you're studying?
Spaced repetition is amazing. Honestly, it saves me, especially when you need to remember vocab or tricky stuff. Apps like Anki are really helpful. You go over things with breaks in between, which apparently helps move stuff from short-term to long-term memory. Also, I try to find a quiet place to study, like the library, so I don't get distracted.
I tried spaced repetition and it was okay, but I get bored easily. What really helps me is active recall, basically testing myself instead of just reading stuff again. I write down questions, then try to answer them without looking at my notes. It's harder, but I remember way more. Maybe try that, Sarah.
That's a good idea, Aria. I've also been wanting to try mind mapping. I think seeing everything laid out visually could help me get the bigger picture and connect the dots between different ideas. Sometimes I feel like I'm just learning facts without really understanding how they all fit. How do you guys take notes and keep things organized?
I really like the Cornell method for notes. Basically, you split your page into sections for notes, cues, and a summary. Then, after class, you fill in the cues and the summary part. Writing the summary makes me really think hard about what I've learned. It can take up a bit of time though.
I just take notes however I feel like. I write down whatever seems important at the time, and then I go back and highlight the main stuff later. It's not super organized, I know, but it works for me. I also try to connect what I'm learning to real life to help me remember it, especially if the professor is just going on and on.
I totally get that. I sometimes feel stressed by the amount of stuff we have to learn. I think I need to break bigger tasks down into smaller, easier bits. I'm also trying to take more breaks and look after myself more to avoid burnout. What do you two do to chill out when exams are coming up?
I go to the gym. Seriously, working out really helps me with stress. I also try to make time for fun stuff, like seeing a movie or hanging with friends, to get my mind off studying. It's all about balance, I think. You can't just study all the time.
I watch loads of my favorite shows, which isn't the best thing to do, but it helps me relax. I also try to get enough sleep, which is hard when it's exam time. If you don't sleep, everything gets worse. Oh, and I like to study with my friends because, well, misery loves company.
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
The students discussed various strategies for studying effectively at university and managing the challenges of learning large amounts of material. One student explained that they have been experimenting with techniques like the Pomodoro method, but often get distracted during breaks and feel unsure about what works best for them. They wanted advice on how to stay focused and retain information more efficiently. Another student recommended spaced repetition, particularly for memorizing vocabulary or complex concepts. They mentioned using apps like Anki to review material at intervals, which helps move knowledge from short-term to long-term memory. They also emphasized the importance of finding quiet places, such as the library, to minimize distractions and maintain concentration. A third participant highlighted active recall as a highly effective method, describing how testing oneself with questions rather than simply rereading notes leads to better understanding and retention of information. The conversation then turned to note-taking strategies. One student preferred the Cornell method, which divides notes into sections for main ideas, cues, and summaries, encouraging reflection on what has been learned. Another used a more flexible approach, jotting down key points and later highlighting or connecting them to real-life examples. Mind mapping was also suggested as a tool for visually organizing ideas and seeing connections between concepts, which can help make the material more meaningful. The group also addressed self-care and stress management. They discussed taking breaks, exercising, watching shows, getting enough sleep, and studying with friends to stay motivated. They agreed that balancing study with relaxation is crucial to avoid burnout and maintain productivity. In conclusion, the discussion emphasized combining cognitive strategies, such as spaced repetition and active recall, with structured or visual note-taking, while also prioritizing self-care. Adapting methods to personal learning styles, maintaining focus in a conducive environment, and achieving a balance between study and rest were seen as key to improving academic performance and overall well-being.
You've organized a monthly movie night with your friends, and everyone's excited to watch a classic film together. However, upon arrival, you notice some guests bringing loud snacks that could disturb others during the movie. You need to remind everyone to bring quiet snacks to ensure an enjoyable viewing experience for everyone. What would you say to your friends?
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
Hi! I would like to discuss an issue we have encountered with the monthly movie night. The background is that everyone's excited to watch a classic film together. However, upon arrival, I noticed some of us bringing loud snacks that could disturb others during the movie. In the situation, what I can think of is to gather the louder snacks. Besides, another thing that comes to my mind is to provide quiet snacks.
You notice that the communal gym equipment at your apartment complex has been left in disarray with weights scattered all over the floor and machines left unattended. You decide to send a friendly reminder to your neighbors. What would you say to your neighbors?
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
Hi. I would like to discuss an issue we have encountered with the communal gym equipment. The background is that I noticed that the communal gym equipment at our apartment complex has been left in disarray with weights scattered all over the floor and machines left unattended. In the situation, what I can think of is to add simple signs near each area. Besides, another thing that comes to my mind is to organize a volunteer for check.
You've organized a weekly book club meeting with your friends, and everyone's excited to discuss the latest read. However, upon arrival, you notice some attendees haven't finished the book and are unable to participate fully in the discussion. You need to remind everyone of the importance of reading the assigned material. What would you say to your friends?
Prepare your response after the beep. Start speaking after the beep.
Hi. I would like to discuss an issue we have encountered with the weekly book club meeting. The background is that everyone's excited to discuss the latest read. However, upon arrival, I notice some of us haven't finished the book and are unable to participate fully in the discussion. In the situation, what I can think of is to share a summary of the book. Besides, another thing that comes to my mind is to set clearer check-in points.